Now that we are paired with the student iPad, we're going to start actually using Jamf Parent. On the parent device, you should see a new icon with your student's name listed below. Clicking on the icon will take you into your parent's permissions and tools. Jamf splits this up into 3 different tabs or categories. The first one is Allowed Apps, second is Device Rules, and then the third tab is just basic device information that's being reported from the student iPad, like storage, usage, and battery percent remaining. We're going to first look at the Allowed Apps. This is going to be the first tab that launches when you click on your student's device. Let's look at Enabled App Lock. In this section, it allows you to set a time frame and to select certain applications that you lock the iPad to. So for example, I'm going to lock this iPad to just the Camera and Photos app, and then I'm going to apply it for 30 minutes. We're going to click Done in the top right corner, and then the student iPad will be locked to just those 2 apps. You'll see you have the camera in the top left, and then on this iPad, the Photos app is saved to the dock at the bottom. Now this device is going to be stuck to these 2 apps either until you click Disable App Lock on the parent device, or that timer runs out. You can also change the allowed apps and reset the timer by clicking on Change Allowed Apps. I'm going to click on Disable App Lock, and this should free the apps and they should be restored back to your student's iPad. The next option we have is to restrict device functionality. Clicking on this will launch a list of apps. These apps are predetermined by Apple. It allows you to toggle them on or off to either allow the student to use or to hide them from the iPad. It is important to mention that we do not push majority of these apps here. Again, this list is populated by Apple. We do not have control over what apps are allowed in this list. So for example, Messages, FaceTime, and Phone are already removed from the student iPad, so they will not have access to those 3 apps. Along with iTunes, News, and Game Center, that is also the same. So really what this pane is used for is mostly the camera, Safari, books, and podcasts. So for example, I'm going to disable the camera, and then you'll see on the student's iPad there that the camera is gone. If I re-enable the camera, it should reappear in the same exact spot that it was. The last section in this Allowed Apps tab is the Allowed App Categories. Similar to the Restrict Device functionality, this list of categories is predetermined by Apple and app developers. These are the categories that app developers put their app into so that the App Store can better categorize all of the apps that are within that store. We want to make it very clear that we are not pushing or allowing any kind of social media, games, entertainment, shopping, or music apps. This is purely provided by Jamf, and again, it's a category that is predetermined by Apple, so we cannot edit or manage the categories found here at the bottom of the page. For that very reason, we do not recommend you use this allowed app categories, as it really will not be efficient in managing or controlling the student iPad. We would rather recommend using the Enable App Lock here on the first page, Restrict Device functionality, or as we'll get into, the Device Rules tab. Now let's talk about device rules. Creating a device rule will give you 3 options. You have ad hoc, day and time, and motion. Ad hoc allows you to create a rule that allows you to select from a list of apps to be locked down into the student iPad. This rule is very manual, so if you want this rule to take effect, you have to apply it every day or every time that you want the rule to be in effect. The day and time option allows you to get some automation built in. So now, day and time is similar to ad hoc in that it will allow you to select from a list of apps that you want to restrict on the student iPad. But now you can apply it to specific days throughout the week and even specific times within those days. The last section is motion. We do not recommend motion, as in our testing, the application was not accurate in determining if the student iPad was walking or running. So for that reason, we recommend that you use day and time or ad hoc when it comes to creating your device rules. Now let's create a device rule. For this example, we're going to use ad hoc. You're going to be brought to this screen that says Restricted Apps. You're going to see the same 5 categories that were shown on the front page of the Jamf Parent app. We always recommend that you use the custom selection because custom will allow you to select the app specifically from this list. So in this example, we're going to lock the student iPad down to the camera and photos. You'll click next, and this is where you name the device rule. Here I'm just going to say camera and photo, and then we're going to save. Now on the device rules tab, you're going to see that rule there. So if I select that rule, give it a time frame, and I start it, that rule is going to apply to the student iPad as you see on the left. If you want to lift a device rule, you're going to click on Stop Active Device Rule and click Yes, and then that will free the student iPad as shown on the left. Now let's do a date and time device rule. Selecting date and time will give you the option to select custom for your restricted apps list. And then here I'm going to select a couple more apps just so I can show you how device rules interact with each other. So I'm going to do the same camera and photos, but I'm also going to add Safari and Notes into this app rule or device rule. The next screen you're going to see is a weekly schedule, so you can select specific days and then a start and end time for the device rule. But I'm going to be showing the always option. When we click next, we can name the device rule again. And you'll be taken back to your device rules home screen. So the thing with an always option is that it's going to automatically, like you saw, take effect. So now the student's iPad is going to automatically be locked down since I toggled that always toggle. Now you can set other device rules while this always toggle device rule is turned on. But if you did not allow those specific apps, they are not going to appear regardless. So for this example, since I did allow the photos and camera app, that means my photo and camera rule can take effect. It will lock the device down to just those two apps. But if I did not allow that in my always option there, you would not be able to lock that device to the photos and camera app purely because you did not allow it in the always option. So to take away from this, if you set an always device rule, just make sure you have the apps that are critical and important because they are going to be locked down until that rule is lifted. So for this example, since I have two selected, I'll show you how the always option is not going to lift. If we select the Stop Active Device rule and we click Yes, that's going to lift the camera and photo restriction. Now I get back my Safari at the bottom and my notes there at the bottom as well. So it's going to pull back all the functionality that the always option rule has enabled. If you want to disable an always toggled device rule, you actually have to delete by swiping to the left on it and deleting the rule. This will pre-populate all of the apps that appeared on the student iPad before. Just to recap, Ad hoc allows you to create one manual restriction rule that allows you to select all those apps and restrict it to whatever time frame you select as you apply the rule. Day and time allows you to create some automation, select days and time frames of which you want to apply those app locks to, but also just be cautious of the always toggle, as that toggle is very powerful. It will set automatically and it can conflict with other device rules. Lastly, again, the device tab is purely there just to pull the storage information and battery information.